And certainly Ray Bradbury, one of my favorite writers.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him, and I
Yeah,
think, yeah, of course. My boyfriend's even talked about him. So yeah.
he wrote the Martian Chronicles. So I think in some ways I feel sort of like just a humble strand of that, ancestral memory of Mars and our
Mm-hmm.
longing to, explore a place that maybe is like our place, but maybe filled
Yeah.
with all kinds of mysterious possibilities.
Cool.
I'd like to read one other poem from this same book, Night Silence. I write a lot of poems about animals, about creatures,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to joke with my late husband that he had the sort of higher ordered creatures like birds and mammals, which I love, but I also am a fan of the so-called lower ordered creatures like insects, reptiles, fish, and invertebrate things, and certainly butterflies and moths. So this poem is called "The Moth and Her Shadow."
Oh.
Before I leap into this light, I strain to pull the air into my wings, and each push draws me closer to dying. My flight darkens the earth, the moon offers the assurance of cold stones. It is you who truly draws me, a self of me in night, falling but dancing upward in sparks.
Hmm.
That's The Moth in Her Shadow.
Yeah. That's awesome. Uh, Sometimes
Thank you.
some people sometimes think of moths like not quite as beautiful as butterflies. I do know that they kind of think of them as kind of like dirty versions of butterflies.
Well, I think I find, when I looked at them up close, a lot of them have these very sweet, pretty little
They
faces.
do, and then even some, and like their wing designs. Some of them do have some neat little wing designs, and like, oh, it's just a moth. Okay.
I often think of moths, and butterflies are very beautiful and spectacular in a
Yes.
different way, but moths are kind of a little bit more introspective. I think partly because if we see them during the day, they're usually kind of dozing or conserving
Yeah,
their energy. And they have kind of a beauty and mystery all their own, I
they
feel.
do.
I sometimes find myself drawn to butterflies and
Oh,
moths
I
and
love
what,
butterflies.
yeah, something about their little spirit, speaks to
Uh,
me.
I actually have little butterfly stickers in my little tiny office cave area. I have butterfly little 3D thingies that they pop out, and yeah, I love butterflies.
Oh, that sounds great. It's like having butterflies within.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I would love to read just a couple of poems from my most recent poetry book. This one is called Pretty Green Thorns,
Hmm.
and this poetry book is a lot about my heritage as a first generation
Oh, neat.
Irish American person who has a mom from Ireland, and we still have family there, and I've been to visit them many times, and having a dad, who grew up Boston Irish, and this kind of amazing place of living in two worlds and between two worlds. And so the poems in this book are a lot about certainly visiting Ireland and interacting with my Irish family, but also how growing up Irish has influenced other parts of my life. And I would say certainly writing about Gothic horror and things like that, I
Mm-hmm.
feel I owe a lot to that heritage. Bram Stoker, like we were
Oh,
talking about
sure.
before, was an Irish author,
Uh-huh.
and also the many other great authors, Oscar Wilde and people like that, who contributed
Oh, Oscar
a
Wilde.
lot.
I come across some of his quotes sometimes. He's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. When I read Irish authors, I really have that sense of like, Ireland is a very modern nation,
Mm-hmm.
but the Irish still have this amazing traditional culture, and part of that is an homage to our ancestors who believed very strongly in a spiritual world that interacted with the world of the living. And this is where we get our observance of Halloween. It actually comes from the Irish observance of Samhain and the turning of the new year, in a time when it was thought that spirits could cross over.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so our whole tradition of trick-or-treat and jack-o'-lanterns, and although they carved turnips in that time, and just the idea that you could communicate freely with ghosts and saints and all of these, sort of ambiguous beings. To me, I feel like that sense of imagination is something that I feel I owe a lot to being raised in my Irish and Irish American culture. And in fact, since we were talking about Bram Stoker, there's also that same picture of me at Bram Stoker's house in Dublin. Yeah, is in that same book.
Oh, so cool.
Yep. So I would love to read a poem from this book that is about a being from Irish mythology called the Morrigan. Okay. We hear a lot about the Morrigan in popular culture these days, but it is not always represented properly. The Morrigan is it's thought to be an entity, a female entity with three different sides or aspects.
Oh my gosh.
And it's associated with the crow.
Huh.
And the Morrigan has sort of become popular in role-playing and things like that, but kind of taken out of her actual cultural origin and meaning. So, which is highly ambiguous and somewhat depends on the story that you're reading. So this poem is called Mending the Morrigan, trying to appreciate the Morrigan in her actual proper and ancestral place.
Oh, neat. Okay.
I will keep your name like the trees circling a field. Dust devils dance, grass murmurs in October's wind. This is your home, your bed, through strangers divide you, though strangers divide you again and again. I will keep your name, hold you all in threads of ferocity. I will raise my arms to your swift-moving clouds and the rush of crows' cries.
Read that one more time. I'm just curious.
Sure. Okay, yeah, sure. I will keep your name like the trees circling a field. Dust devils dance, grass murmurs in October's wind. This is your home, your bed, though strangers divide you again and again. I will keep your name, hold you all in threads of ferocity. I will raise my arms to your swift-moving clouds and the rush of crows' cries.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's what we needed a second time just to, you take it in. You hear it the first time, then the second time you really want to hear it. So.
Sure. No, I definitely do that too sometimes, like going back to a poem and reading it again. And sometimes there are different things that come out of it, come out of doing that.
Sure.
So I'd like to read this one more poem from this book, which is dedicated to my maternal grandparents, my mother's mother and father. And they lived lives of hardship, and but they also lived lives of tremendous strength. So it's also kind of an homage to my ancestors. And part of that, for me, was thinking about being a person of Gaelic and Celtic origin. And these were races of people who were, according to the ancient Romans and others, were basically looked at as barbarians. The Celts were considered a barbarian race, people living on the fringes of what was at that time mainstream society. And the Irish lived under colonial occupation for a long time, and like many colonized peoples, their way of life was looked at as one way to justify that colonial dominance. With the Irish, with the Aboriginal Australians, with people from India, Africa, was basically to say, well, these people are living a way of life that's inferior, and they need us to civilize them. So I thought about that a lot. So this poem is called Life is a Barbarian. Because honestly, I came to basically embrace the barbarian within. It's the people I come from. They've given me a lot. So this poem, Life is a Barbarian. We always embraced it wholly. Blue paint and pub songs. We walked to the river's edge. Mist drove over the stone walls. Now I am living it true. Samhain. Every day I wake up and I am here again. Voices wander like grass. Language is lost in a thicket. I promise you I will carry on in all our ways. Your caravan passes by. I promise you I will not close my eyes.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. That's just a slice of life as a barbarian.
Yeah. It's kind of like you just kind of like give them this like a quick look, inside. That's what, like, some of your poems, it's kind of just like a short minute of just like, of whatever it is, like you're trying to describe. Like you're kind of letting the reader in just for a few minutes, or even just for like a second, just to see.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that observation. I really do. Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool. Very awesome. I really enjoyed all your readings, and I really hope that our listeners do too. We started this podcast in, what is this, 2020? Was it early 2019 or late 2018? It's been, and it's, we've actually have become more popular in other countries besides just of America, of all places, like India and, I forget, but we were in the top 100 in the Apple podcasts in other countries, so it's very interesting. So you might get some international listeners, so that I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's very cool. I think the power of the podcast is being able to reach so many people. So all the people out there, I guess it's too late to apologize in advance if my poems bored the hell out of you. Oh. There they are.
No, they weren't boring at all. I think what they need to do too, especially go to your website. I mean, you can see her travels and her pictures and everywhere she's been. I mean, definitely, again, her website, megsmithwriter.com. Go there and you can understand, where she comes up with her ideas. And I mean, and then last of all too, your books. I saw you do have a shop where they can check out books on your website. They can do it there. Are they also like available like on Amazon or anywhere else, or?
Yes. The 4 books that were published by Emu Books, the Dear Deepest Ghost, The Scarlet Dancing, Knight's Island, and Pretty Green Thorns are all available on Amazon, and they're also available through the online shop at megsmithwriter.com. And also people can also check out my Facebook page and Twitter as well. But yes, those are the 2 places cool. that you can order them directly with the Amazon and megsmithwriter.com.
Great.
And my hope is for a 25th anniversary edition of The First Fire, because of the circumstances of the COVID crisis and everything, that will probably be more like a release next spring.
Definitely.
But then once everything falls into place, I hope to have that book available on there as well.
Great. I'm so happy that you came by poetryessentialshub.com. I mean, just randomly on, and then I got to speak to you. So I mean, it's just a, what do you call it? Something a catch in the dark. I just thought I'd ask her, hey, you want to be on my podcast? So that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad we found each other. And I also, if I could, I just wanted to give a shout out to my husband, Derek Savoy, who's been sitting here actually quietly while we're doing this podcast. He supports me in everything that I do. He's actually taken all of my author bio pics, and he goes with me to poetry readings.
Oh, so cool.
I couldn't let the moment pass by without giving a shout out to him and just my love and gratitude for all he's done to support.
That's so sweet that he does that. You know, when you've got someone to support you like